22nd now. Here we go. Just like that, right on cue. We have E4 on the board, Maurice.
Yeah, we'll see just how this goes. There's going to be some sharp games. Got 90 minutes of serious chess that's going to get played here. And this E5 advanced variation in Caro looks like the only thing people do these days in order to compete in this line for white. And it just gets super sharp. So hold on to your seats because this is going to turn into fun. Already we see a C5 pawn, temporary pawn sacrifice, and a check, of course, recovering. White has some good dark squares in the position right now. He said 4 square is something that he's going to try to pivot against. But black has a very solid position. Super solid structure right now. Super solid. You're going to have to make some pawn breaks to break through. No way in the world you're going to break black's position down with just piece moves. And black's going to have easy piece plays. Knight's going to come into the game. C6, E7 most likely, and also castles.
Yeah, we talk about this structure a lot, whether it's in the French or the Caro, the difference between the bishop being outside or in. So black has fixed the big problem of the big pawn stuck behind the light squares, but in exchange, maybe white gets a little bit of an initiative, as you highlighted, the dark squares are being gripped in. You know, this 5-minute portion sometimes in these matches give us a little bit of insight into whatever prep was put in. Sometimes we learn that a player kind of going out of their way to play something different. Sometimes a player showing maybe like Wesley is here. I mean, he's used a total of 7 seconds that he knew Nordenbeck was going to play the Caro-Kann, and he's ready to play quickly. So we'll see if that continues to be a theme.
And this move, knight, very natural, knight bc6 took quite some time for him to play. And the problem was this next move, bishop to e3, you have to be ready, as he could tell that Wesley was ready to go into an endgame with the 2 bishops, and Wesley's playing instantaneously. Clearly, he's analyzed this position.
Yeah, and we'll see when the first movement comes. You see more than a minute on the clock already. And if this continues to be a theme, you start to wonder how much prep Wesley put into this Caro-Kann. Nordenbeck now on the clock. I assume knight c6 is going to be the move, but is knight c4 the other idea?
He'd rather play knight c4 and get rid of one of the bishops so that he doesn't have to compete against 2 bishops. That's preferable, and it looks like what he did. But that bishop on b6 was annoying, and that's why you see this retreating move. Knight to e7, looking to get the d5 square. If he cements this knight on d5, then I don't know what Wesley's playing for.
You notice that Wesley still played a4 instantly. This is going to be one of those unbalanced endgames. You'll have a centralized knight, which is really what you want when you're competing against the better minor piece, I guess, of the bishop, so to speak. Dr. Evil quotation fingers. But the dark squares, I mean, I think Nordenbeck has done pretty good in the first stage, especially given that Wesley was playing so fast, showing some prep.
Absolutely, and I don't care about the dark squares. If I can put my king on c6, that's the real king. If that king could fly to c6 instantly and get your bishop, and this is the problem. This rook a4 move is preventing this key idea of putting a king to c6 and solidifying the position. And the other thing that White's going to want to do is somehow get his other rook to gang up on this pawn. So you might see an h4, h5. You might see a king e2, rook to okay, so now Wesley's playing bishop d4. He's X'd that idea completely, or at least for now, putting a bishop on a square where it cannot be traded. And now he's going to look to see if he can take some time, maybe drop a king on e4. And then we got to wonder exactly how he's going to pressure that c pawn. Because again, real good control in the position on the light squares for black.
Super interesting because both players' control can become their weakness, right? The C pawn and the knight are down on the light squares, and you wonder if White can somehow get a second attacker here. This A pawn makes the B pawn backward, but I don't know anything about these positions as a player other than in a fantasy world, maybe I can even get my rook to the 4th rank and move the bishop or something. I don't. Be curious to see. Oh, here we go. I was just sitting there wondering, what's the deep plan that White has to try to make this strength a weakness?
It's about that c pawn, and I didn't perceive it as a strength in my eyes because it just does look like it's there. It looks like it's constraining White, but White is not constrained at all, really, by this pawn. The key though is how is Black going to get through. Now Black is realizing that there is a challenge to this pawn on the square, on the c4 square, but the pawn on e5 is also potentially a weakness as well. But how does he get his rook? He needs like 3 moves. Rook to h5, e5, rook f5 without hanging the pawn on h4, and then g5, and then he's set. Then but it takes so much time to pull that off, and he's trying to figure it out now. And look at his clock ticking down dramatically. He played rook h5, but he's lost a lot of time trying to figure it out.
Yeah, this will be interesting, Maurice. I'm already just thinking, I wonder if we'll see both players go back to this, because if this becomes one of those sort of theoretical struggles, not a Berlin endgame, but some sort of endgame where both sides feel like white feels I do have enough to play for a small edge and win, and black is like, I'll hold this all day and keep going. This will be interesting to see if they repeat this.
It's critical right now. The C pawn is hanging at the moment, because even though it looks like white will lose the E pawn, the H pawn is hanging. So how do you solve that? Do you feel like maybe this is a Droish ending? You go into a major simple rook ending with everything traded off. So what I'm saying is white's threatening to trade, and there he goes. This is the thing I was saying. Would he be able to play rook f5 and potentially g5 at a moment when the tactics work out? Because he's going to have to take on e3, and it looks like he has worked this out timing-wise perfectly. He's now ready to take on e3 to take his h pawn, and pawn takes allows rook f2 check, and takes rook takes e5 with check. So his timing was spot on.
Let's analyze how the break of the board to show the line that Maurice is thinking about his head. If something like this occurs, everybody Maurice is going to take here first. And if you take the pawn, there's rook f2, and if you take the king, you would check so that they can have time to protect the king, right? Regardless of where this king might go, it might be with g5 or with the rook or some other kind of counterplay. In fact, a5 also hanging, right? So,
a5 is hanging.
yeah. So that's the line Maurice is.
Perfect time. Perfect. I had described all this entire variation. That's what black wanted with g5, but I didn't know if he could execute. But with that bishop sitting on e3, that was the key. That had not happened yet. With the bishop sitting on e3, then everything works. But the reality is the bishop on e4, nothing threatened black. So white had to do something, and that pure defense, precision defense by the youngster. And it's got Wesley So now in a deep tank. Remember that big edge he had on the clock? It's gone. It's gone.
Chess is hard, right? Man, don't you wish you could move your bishop and give your advantage without giving them counterplay? I hate that part of chess.
I love that. And now the king shifts. He's trying to guard the f2 square, but it does seem as though g5 is possible. But he decided not to even bother, because now that he's taken, he can show that he's got some play. And here comes g5, and we're seeing a lot of pieces get snapped off. And I felt like g5 was the right timing move, because now you're dropping the c pawn. He didn't play g5. Maybe there was something wrong with it, but now the c pawn is dead to the world, and black's gonna have to find counterplay some other way.
Yeah, let's back up to that position Maurice was talking about before everything else. Maurice's idea was g5 instead of rook c5 to hold that board. I think you were right, and the computer agrees with you ever so slightly, Maurice. So it's up. The whole point Maurice is saying is you can play rook c5 next, and if white takes now, you still have this pawn. So perhaps in order back, it's the slight inaccuracy, because if this position holds out, it looks like Wesley could have moved the pawn, as indeed he's about to. So interesting. Yeah.
And now instead of taking to play this move, intriguing move, rook to e5, his threat is to play f7 and then take on e6.
Yeah.
That's what he
Let me
wants.
show that
to
line
take
real
there.
quick. If a move like rook a2 is played, f7, and you take with check, and then you can even slide over here.
Time to collect. That's exactly right. Now, with precise variation that black is calculating right now, realizes that the danger is on, and I don't even see what he can do to stop this idea. I mean, trading rooks is terrible. Your rook's hanging. Maybe b5 and pray for this endgame to be okay for you. This looks gnarly.
One of the ideas I just realized is if the rook moves or if b5, I was just going to say, I wonder if f5 is coming first, because if you take now, f7 is lights out. Here comes the queen.
Boy, this is hard to defend now. F5 was indeed a monster threat, and it looks like it's going to be bad. He's just dropped. Big material. This is resigned. Just play f7, and it should be all over. I don't see any reason to play this position any further. This is Bastida. Wow, it's just a big turnaround in this position. And you got a big problem. Your rook is frozen. Your rook cannot move off of f1 because of rook to f5. Move your rook away, rook f5, and it's out.
And it's over.
You can't stop what's going to happen.
So this is an idle threat, as they say.
That's an idle threat.
You can't move it anyway.
Keep going. And Wesley has played a quiet move and waited around for a second. It doesn't matter because you have no move. Your king cannot move because of e7. This check does nothing. You should be able to just. I don't see why he's not playing king b6
play rook f6. Oh, wow, no, he's got a weird.
Rook f6 didn't threaten anything. This is
Oh,
it's
yeah,
only,
yeah.
only a home. And why can't
Yeah,
we take
no,
this
there's-
pawn? I'm still confused. Why can't I just take this pawn and smile? What's the problem?
Jorabek made that move with 0.3 seconds on the clock. So
What is-
regardless of on the board, on the clock is how this one will come to an end. And